sont confortables, ceux-là. C'est pas comme à Beaubourg. Ladies and gentlemen, normally when we announce the beginning, the doors close, silence. No, just give a few minutes. So I'm going to start the intro just to give a bit of time for everyone. So welcome to the conversation and to Art Basel. It's a pleasure having you today under this very rainy Parisian sky. I am the CEO of ARTE Generali, and in ARTE Generali we work with data because we are insurer. That's one of the few things, one of the few perversions of insurer, data. And naturally, when AI started, we were very much into it, and we partner with a great startup called Wonder AI, working out of Toronto in Canada. And those guys were crushing millions of data points in order to really analyze the art market and its dynamic and how artists are progressing sometimes in terms of value or in terms of recognition and so on. So very deep knowledge, in fact, of the dynamic of the art market. So when the idea came from Colleen, from Art Basel, that we could work on Paris as an art place and try to explain the dynamic, we said, well, let's do that, but let's also bring some art fact in order to nourish the conversation. So that's why we are here today, together. I have been living abroad for 20 years. I'm French, as you have noticed. But living abroad for 20 years, you know, it's very sad sometimes to see your country evolving in some direction you may not like or you think could be better. And it's true that economically, France has not been at the forefront for 10 years. The financial situation, the debt has been on the increase. The governments now are unstable. But there is one thing which is regularly progressing. It's the art market and Paris as an art place and France as an art place. When you look at the quality of the exhibitions, I live in London. I can tell you that the quality of exhibitions are better in Paris than in London. I should not say that, but I think it's true. When I see the number of, I would say, new art institutions, I mean, look at the Cartier Foundations. You all remember them in the 14th area. Now they are in the center of Paris with a brand new building. I mean, Pinot, Arnaud. the dynamic of the galleries. Of course, we have Emmanuel Perrotin here, but there are other younger guys still following him in this pursuit of quality, excellence, discovering new people, promulgating them outside of France. It seems that the French art place and Paris at the center is living in its own world. So this is the paradox we are trying to crack today, thanks to Martin and all the panelists who is going to introduce you. How can we explain this dynamic and how is it sustainable? So let's go there. Thanks, Martin.
Thanks. Thanks, Jean. Thanks very much. And thanks also to Art Basel, to Colline Milliard, and to also my dear Clément de Lépine for their invitation today. Of course, I would like to thank our panelists because they accepted to take some time in this crazy week to share their analysis and to share their experience, to share their thoughts. So thanks to Mina Sultan-Geis, to Julie Boukobza, and to Emmanuel Perrotin. I will introduce you more and in a better way later on. The fact that Paris is back, as so many say, that Paris is a magnet again for the art world, has become a kind of commonplace. But behind this commonplace, there is a reality that we all can observe in these days, in this week. In the headlines of the international press, in the aisles of the fair, of course, but also in the whole city. It's a reality that makes me happy and brings me years ago when I was working for an art fair that was FIAC at this moment. And together with Jennifer Flay, we spent so much energy to try to convince galleries, collectors, curators to come to Paris. At this moment in the early 2000s, it was not an easy job, but we had very good arguments, and we convinced one by one many of them who never left the fair and still are here. So this new reality is for me a great pleasure. The idea of this conversation, I think, is to try to go a little deeper beyond the superficiality of the commonplace and maybe also beyond the effects of self-fulfilling prophecy that the art market just adores. To be clear, let's say everything is great and everything will be great. It's a very, very important effect in this art world, so we are going to try to be to go deeper, thanks to the analysis that Mina will present us, and also through the experience that Emmanuel and Julie will share with us. I'm very happy that we can have Emmanuel's point of view in this conversation. Not because he's a major player, not because he's a man who always speaks very freely, very directly, without any langue de bois, but also for the unique openness of his experience. Open geographically, operating with galleries in 9 countries in Europe, America, Middle East, Asia, and also open because rooted in history, in almost 4 decades of activity. And he went through periods of incredible growth of the art market, also periods of crisis, and I think it's really important to be able, thanks to Emmanuel, to contextualize the Paris situation in the world geographically, but also in the not history, but in the recent past. I'm also very happy that we can hear Julie, because she's got a fantastic experience. She managed to work simultaneously for one of the most important contemporary art foundations in the world, Luma Foundation. Significantly not in Paris, but in Arles. So maybe we could have changed the title of our panel, Why France Now, rather than Why Paris Now, because not everything is in Paris now. And at the same time, while working for this very important reality, she also develops and manages a smaller project, very human scale, very precise and targeted, bringing international artists here in Paris and called Pourquoi Paris? Before I now invite Mina to speak, I would like to try, as a very, very brief introduction, to address 3 points that seem to me very important when one considers the strengths of an art situation. I must say that these points are leaving aside the absolutely essential external effects, political, economical, geopolitical effects that are absolutely important but exogenous to the art system. So let's focus on the art system itself. And I think to define and describe a dynamic and sustainable art situation, you need 3 major things. The first is intensity. Intensity of the artistic and cultural offer, intensity of exhibitions, number, quality, attendance of the exhibitions, as Jean mentioned, but not so in the world of arts, also in the wider field of culture, cinema, bookstores, theater, dance, music, in which Paris is a kind of unique landscape. Intensity. The second is openness. It's more a question of state of mind. French culture has always been very rooted in a certain idea of xenophilia. There's a strong tradition in welcoming artists from all over the world. There is a very strong tradition for institutions to collect or to commission works without any consideration of nationality. And this second point of openness seems to be also very, very important. And the third one, and maybe the most important for me, because it's the key of sustainability in an art situation, is this idea of balance. Balance between private and public, between market and non-profit, between also big and small, and between intellectual and lifestyle, between serious and futility, because all of this is part of an art situation. This idea of balance is very important because it's the key of the sustainability of the ecosystem. If the art ecosystem is based only on the market, there is a big problem of volatility. It's vulnerable to the slightest change in the general economical context, in the tax system of every country, or also on the fashion trends, because it's also this that makes the appeal of a city. On the other side, if it's based only on institutions and public institutions, there is a real problem of lack of dynamics, of lack of energy and capacity of innovation. So really, you need both. And I would like just to underline the fact that in the last decades, Paris, that was not balanced, is now getting rebalanced in a certain way. Historically, French situation was there was a huge gap between the importance of the public institutions and the shyness of private institutions. In the 2 last decades, things changed dramatically. I don't think it's now we don't need to recall all of the big players, but also smaller players in Paris and all over France, especially in the south, from Arles up to Monaco and the Italian border. Balance between market and non-profit. Same historical gap in Paris since the 60s between the importance of the institutions and the relative weakness of the art market. In the last 2 decades, once again, strength of the auction houses, number of galleries, attraction of the big players, vitality of the galleries on every level of the market, not speaking about the role of the art fairs. I'm sure these ideas of balance, openness, and density, we will find them some way in Mina's analysis. And I'm going to introduce you Mina. She's a computer scientist. She's a former researcher at MIT Media Lab. And she has led AI research in industry and academia. And she's currently the Chief Innovation Officer at Wonder AI. In 2023, with ARTE Generali, Wonder published a report on the French art scene with the economist Nathalie Moureau. And for our talk today, Mina decided to dig a little deeper into some of these past findings about the French ecosystem. Mina, I'm happy to invite you to speak now.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for the opening, because some of the themes you mentioned we're going to see through the slides and some of the analysis that we've done today. Because when we think about Paris art ecosystem, similar to any art ecosystem, it's not a fixed structure. It's rather a living network. Museums, art galleries, and artists, they all influence one another and evolve the career of artists as they go through time. So to understand the dynamics that takes place in this ecosystem, and to see how these artists evolve over time and go through these cities and institutions around the world, at Wonder, we have mapped this network, this underlying network. We've done so through the actions of around 35,000 art players, key market players in the art ecosystem, including galleries, museums, and so on and so forth, for over 150 years. And we've done so at scale globally. We also analyze millions of transactions at the dealer, asking prices, and auction transactions as well. And all this data together is the backbone of the research that we've done today and what you're going to see. And what you see on the screen is just a snapshot of that data, just to visualize what it would be. It's just a small fraction of that data that we have to rebuild or reconstruct this underlying network. So to look at Paris ecosystem, we use this data, and we want to look at this ecosystem through different lenses: its risk-taking, price patterns, and also how it welcomes new artistic voices. So we mainly looked at artists who have been showing in Paris over the past 5 years, so recently. And we asked ourselves a very simple but fundamental question: who are these artists, and what story do they reveal about Paris and French art ecosystem? So that's where we start. Over the past 5 years, around 9,000 artists have been shown in Paris. And of those, 70% are mainly emerging, underrepresented, and mid-career artists. And 30% are star and celebrated names that you would see. So this simple breakdown itself tells us a significant story about Paris and its risk-taking. It tells us that Paris opens up space for artists who are building their visibility, and it's not all about those who are already established. But to look deeper, who in the ecosystem is really taking this risk? And we mapped the institutions behind the first shows of early career artists. And we try to see who are the institutions that are taking these first shows. In Paris, we saw something quite balanced. We saw that nonprofits and commercial galleries, they both contribute almost equally. Just to put it in the context, in Berlin, for example, the risk that they take on early career artists tends to be more on the nonprofits. And in London, it's shifted more towards the commercial galleries who are taking that leap with the early career artists. And to even zoom in more into the nonprofit section, let me see if you see the correct slide. So if we zoom into the nonprofit sector, museums in Paris account for 30% of the first shows of these early career artists. So this museum-rich environment in Paris is actively participating in supporting the innovation and bringing in early career artists as well. And the share that we see is similar from the data to what we see in New York and LA as well. So now let's see how this risk-taking behavior and dynamics that we see shows itself in pricing and translates into pricing. When people speak about pricing or art market, they almost often refer to the transactions in the auction because it's available publicly and it's easy to track. But we can agree that it's just a part of the story, and the day-to-day of the market, what happens at the dealers and galleries, remains less visible. And that's why at Wonder we try to bridge this gap. And we try to we have built AI pricing tools that sheds light into this part of the market and how price behaves in the dealer market as well. So in a sense, to study the ecosystem of Paris and other major European hubs, we've used these AI models to estimate a representative price range for the artists who are showing in these hubs. And then when we compare artists showing in Paris versus the other two hubs, we see something very interesting. We see that the price patterns are almost very similar. In a sense, the distribution of the prices for these artists are following the same structure. And for each given price range, there is a proportionally similar number of artists who are available. So in New York, in Paris, or in Berlin, you're going to see the proportionally similar artists available in any given price range that you see. However, these artists are quite different from one another. Say if we take the artists who are in Paris versus those who are showing in London, there's only about 20% overlap between these artists. And they are mainly star and established artists. So the remaining, the early career or mid-career artists and emerging artists, those are quite distinct between these hubs. And that brings us to the next question that, like, who are these artists? Where are they coming from? And to flip this question or ask it differently, how open each of these cities are to bringing artists from elsewhere. As Martin mentioned, in our previous work with Nathalie Moreau and ARTE Generali, we have found that France tends to be more connected to artists coming from other art scenes. And we wanted to revisit this question a little bit more for Paris and study Paris's openness as well. What we found was actually quite striking. In Paris, about 1 in 3 artists who are currently showing, they are exhibiting in France for the first time. So 1 in 3 artists. And that is a higher share that we see compared to the other hubs as well. So this finding alone tells us some part of the story about the openness of Paris. Now, we hear often that Paris is where it's at, right? But does the data support this? To take it a little bit further, we even looked at the bigger European picture. We looked at artists who've never shown in Europe, to be more precise, UK, Germany, and France before. And we saw that an increasing number of artists are making their European debut in Paris. So the share of artists who made their European debuts in Paris before a few years back was around 35%, and now it's at around 42%. So there's a clear shift that we see in the dynamics of the ecosystem. And Paris is becoming the entry point for even more and more artists who are entering European art scene as well. So when we take this together with the findings that we showed earlier, the similarity in the pricing patterns in these hubs, the risk-taking behavior and the ecosystem that takes that risk in Paris, and the openness to distinct new artistic voices who are entering the art scene, all of these together are basically playing a role into this momentum that we see for Paris. And they all are behind what we see as Paris becoming increasingly more attractive in the international art scene. And a lot of the themes that you brought up is basically a part of this picture as well.
Thank you, Mina.
Of course.
It's at the same time very interesting and fascinating, and sometimes also frustrating, because we are here only with figures, and it's fascinating. But we would like to ask you so many
Of
questions,
course.
and I'm sure Emmanuel and Julie would also want to ask you so many. Of course, the main question is we had data in a kind of absolute situation, but the relativity and the comparison between the different also cities, Paris, New York, London, Berlin. I think these dynamics are also very interesting. But I would like maybe Emmanuel to react to this proposal by Mina and Wonderai, but also very simply to speak with his experience of this place, of this time, of this ecosystem. And to get back to the first question of this panel, why Paris now? Why Paris now is not the same answer for different group of people. And so why Paris now for gallerists, for collectors, is not the same answer as why Paris now for artists, for curators, etc. And dear Emmanuel, what do you think about all this?
Thank you, Martin. So you hear me? No? Yes? Okay. Donc you asked me to speak frankly. Donc let's start by the problems of Paris, because we can list many advantages of Paris now, but unfortunately it was a long road to arrive to where we are. And I want to mention a sentences from a very good French writer, Sylvain Tesson. France is a paradise inhabited by people who believe they live in hell. Bon. I'm happy because I was not sure with the quality of my English you will understand. And I don't know if the translation is good
well.
here. But speaking about English, it's one of the big difference. Maybe 5 years ago, this conference will be in French, and everybody will not be invited to come. You know. This is in English, and the country make a lot of efforts. Thanks to Uber, our taxi driver can be escape. You can speak. You cannot speak with a driver, and you can take an Uber. It's help for our reputation. Thanks to COVID, we have many old waiters disappearing. They decided to. It was very hard job, and you have a young generation speak English, badly like me, but they speak in English. Make us looking less stupid, because for sure when you don't speak English and someone speaks in English to you, you are aggressive because you are frustrated. That's what we live everywhere in the world. But nobody notices it because you feel we have to make the effort. But that's another subject.
It's a very important subject.
It's a very important subject because we're laughing of the French people, but we have the same problem. When I said Bovary to a taxi driver, Bovary, you know, for hours, for years and years, they look at me like I'm speaking Chinese. Donc it's a problem. France like to complain. French people complain. Our ecosystem was not so bad before, but just we have a long tradition of complaints. You know, this complaints is a drama because we have many very good things here. For sure, in a couple of days, our unions or politicians are able to destroy everything. You know, they can make a strike the day of the gala dinner of Pompidou. It's a nice habit, you know. You was talking about the problem of the Louvre. Yes, unions said they don't have enough guards, but in the same time they said they cannot do anything because they have to protect the public. Donc, what will be the change if we have more guards, you know? But they take the occasion to say they need more. They need more like French people. The French country, you know, die of that. We have great museum, we have fantastic museum, but years after years, they was asking more people. Pompidou, 2,200 people working in Pompidou, including the service at the Georges restaurant. But 2,200 people, it's a little bit crazy, no? And arrives the moment of an exhibition, and you don't have money for creation. You have money. They do their maximum. They are super fantastic. Martin was working in Pompidou, but but thanks to the new president.
I worked there before I started to try to speak English.
Yes. And thanks to the new president, enfin the new is not so new anymore, but Laurent Lebon, we know these numbers. These numbers was hired because all the system, you know, in France want to keep that secret because is it the same as the culture ministry, is it the same everywhere? And unfortunately, when arrives the moment to organize exhibition, they ask to gallery to pay them. They are embarrassing to do it, but they're asking. And majority of the gallery on the ecosystem don't have enough money, donc we give majority of the show to foreign artists. The quality of this country is you are absolutely true, is we welcome everybody from the world, but sometimes it makes the country very weak, because by the fact to promote it all around the world, sometimes we look less strong for the national artist. Don't take my placement on the extreme right for my comments. It's a coincidence, and but it's important to talk about that. It's the French artists are stronger and stronger all around the world, but like always, when they was not so good all around the world, we was talking about that on our newspaper every day. Now we have many artists very successful. We never talk about their success. It's a French paradox, you know. View from outside, every time you have the feeling Paris is in fire with the contest and things like that. When you have the pleasure to be in Paris during one of these contests, you realize the map on CNN are a little bit exaggerated, you know, with big fires everywhere. But let's try to talk. I have some notes to talk about the advantage. Donc the advantage is already.
You know, it's like a kind of SWOT table where
yes.
you have.
I didn't watch my note.
Weaknesses.
Okay, no, for sure the private activities change a lot. The ecosystem of gallery changed a lot because after the Second World War, it was really, you know, the entire world want to see French people collapse. And for sure, French galleries was not speaking in English, they was arrogant, they was thinking Paris is the center of the world, and step by step, everything go out Paris. But finally, many things come back, and our private institution, all this foundation open, help a lot to create a new image, and it's impressive. Honestly, I don't know any city with these numbers of institution. And also the beauty is you can go by bike from one to the other, you can walk. Paris is so nice to work. We have the fantastic numbers of palace and good hotel, make a huge difference with Basel. Sorry, Basel, but we have to be honest. Basel is a nightmare for their hotel, for their restaurant. Talking about aggressivity with other nationality, when you are French in Swiss Germany, you feel you have a problem. And yes, Basel is a beautiful city. It's a fantastic art fair. But the problem is clients don't want to live in this condition because they impose to the dealers to take 1 week for the hotel. And at the end, the clients don't have a decent room. So now they live in Zurich. Great for us. They organize a program, a crazy program all around the city, and arrive the moment to visit the fair, they have almost no time. You know, they want to come back to Zurich. It's a real problem, and I hope they will find a solution to resolve it. I don't know in which way, but they opened Paris. That was a solution, and we are very happy. We are very happy. Donc it's help for the ecosystem. But let's not give to Basel, you know, the responsibility to make Paris so much better. It was already there. You know, many people was doing a fantastic job. For sure, everyone fighting with what they have. Many of the directors of this museum, you know, what they can do. When Pompidou closed for 5 years, and let's doubt they will close only for 5 years. We know the story. They was happy. The culture minister was happy at the end on the hurt. We will fire nobody. Wow, it was the best occasion. It was the unique opportunity. Our unions make strike before the closing to be sure they take engagement to come back on the same circumstance, on the same situation. Let's say also the one who will go to retire, they ask if they are replaced. I don't know if you like it, Frank? It's direct, it's...
Yes, this is very
okay.
direct.
And, well, I said that usually, it's not something new in my mouth, you know, but it's... Alors, for sure, the quality of the hotel helps a lot, the quality of the restaurant, the quality of life, all these are fantastic. Sorry for the weather, I can make an official apologize, but it's like that, it's October. And we have, honestly, we have a crazy number of good galleries, and yes, they introduce many artists in first. We take more risk, also maybe because our expenses are a little bit more reasonable to other capital. Paris has the same advantage to London, is we are a centralized country. Donc you have almost everything, and that's why it's difficult in Italy to have a good art fair, or Spain, or things like that. It's because it's very competitive. Well, for us it's easy. Everything is in Paris, you know.
Almost.
The train system, almost, no, but for sure we have a lot of things all around the French country, but you can have everything in Paris. Fantastic museum, fantastic cinema, theater, opera, but also a train system makes us very central. It's very easy to come here from all over Europe, and you like to stay. Donc, it gives us a chance. You come back to the fair to see if we change our booth, you know, because we do these efforts on many art fairs, but the problem is majority of the clients left already the city. And donc, yes, Paris have real good advantage, and we are so happy because when I started my career, trust me, we was embarrassing to be French, you know, and it's much better.
But now, Emmanuel, maybe a more direct question. You have galleries all over the world. We all know that the years 2024, 2025 are very interesting, but not that easy periods for the art situation and the art market. Do you have any observation about the relative more resilience or dynamics of Paris between what's happening in your other galleries all over the world? Do you see some trends in this?
Alors, first of all, unfortunately, 2025, it was a problem everywhere.
Yes.
What was the first time? Usually, I was able to compensate one zone with another. Americans are interesting because when they decided it's not the moment to buy, they close completely, they don't buy, and the worst numbers we get was in America. Maybe it's me, maybe it was the programmation I have during this period from January to now, but it was difficult. And but from the previous crisis, what we remark is when Americans come back, they come back very strongly. We have the feeling they have a budget they didn't spend for a couple of years, and finally they will spend it now. Because many of our clients are not less rich to before; they are still very rich. But it's a problem of let's say trust, you know, on all this and desire, and also maybe the entire world was maybe criticize our rich people to do things eccentric, or, you know, if the pyramid of the price going very high, sorry, I have to do like that. If the pyramid will go very, very high for the price, and all the anomaly on the top, they are very important, because more the pyramid go up, more the base is large. And we made a mistake to criticize Jeff Koons and his friends, because they are very important. They are very important because each, you know, step are so important, because certainly is it for sure the generation of artists was able to live without to work for a school, to work for another job. A big numbers of artists are able, for sure. Still, many of them cannot, and but it was never these numbers of artists showing a purchase and able to survive. And it's a beauty, because more you reduce the base of the pyramid, more the diversity of the artist can be showing and sell. We don't. Sometimes it's sad to refuse the, these prices are very high because many people want the same things at the same time. And if these people have a lot of money, nothing makes them stupid to buy it very expensive. If for me, 100,000 looks some money, from some of our clients, it looks very the low price. And it's good, it's nice, and that's the way to make them spending their money. And if we criticize them, if we caricature all this market, we make them feeling, oh yes, maybe I'm stupid, and they don't buy. And if they don't buy, all the rest of the pyramid going down. Okay, we have to think about it.
Thank you, Emmanuel, and I'm happy you just skipped from the collectors also a little bit to the artists themselves, because speaking about why Paris now, the question would be also why Paris now for the artists, for the curators. Speaking with Julie in the last days and weeks, we were amazed by the fact that almost every week, or not every day, but almost every week, we know that some artist is leaving Berlin or the United States or London to settle and to move to Paris. So why Paris now? Or, Julie, pourquoi Paris?
It's going to be very hard to speak after my French humorist on my far right. Thank you for inviting me. I was trying to think on the point of the artist, because I work mostly with them at Luma Arles, and also for my specific project called Pourquoi Paris. So I've been welcoming, actually, I was thinking while we spoke, around 80 artists in Arles for the past 8 years. Not only artists, but also writers, philosophers, dancers, musicians. We are interested in all kinds of practices at Luma, and I think it's very important also speaking about the dynamic of Paris right now. On my way here, I saw Leo Scarax walking, so that's for me the magic of Paris. That kind of moments, and the strolls, as you said, that for me are very important. Like, there's not a stroll in Paris that didn't help any heartbreaks. So the artists that I thought about who moved here are actually not so many in the past few years. Here's a small list: Cecil B. Evans, Yuri Pattison, Adam Linder, Shahriar Nashat, Philip Timichel, Will Benedict, Thomas Yeppe, Iman Issa, Graham Hamilton, Gerard and Kelly, Jill Muledy, Emma Stern, Kapwani Kiwanga, Monica Narula from Rax Media Collective, Elizabeth Payton, Dominic White, Maria Sabi, Zhu Xiangpeng, and I can announce now Erika Verzuti, with who I'm doing a project right now. So that's the list. Do you want to complete it, Emmanuel? More international artists that moved here recently?
I was sleeping.
Oh my God, no. French men, we cannot do anything.
No, Ivan Argot, but it's so many. It's so
Ivan
many
Argot,
artists.
yes.
Johan Crete, you have many French artists, but it was always the case. It's not something new.
No, I know, but recently there's a lot.
Yeah. And some of them was pretending to living in France just to get the Biennale, the French pavilion of the Biennale, and they was not living in France. But
mostly
let's not
artists
name him.
That are mid-career, because I think it's still very difficult for the French art scene. It's like, I was talking to a French young artist in her 30s, Lucia Carlier, and I asked her how she described it, and she said it's dynamic but precarious. So finding a studio in Paris right now is very difficult, intramuros especially. If you want to do studio visit, it takes you an hour to go there, stay there for 2 hours, and
but 1 hour is in Paris. It's you are almost in the center of London, huh?
Exactly.
Don't forget that Paris is very small. Donc,
no, but I mean, a lot
the
of the
suburb
studios
is the same of London, huh?
Voilà, so that's the...
We are 19 times smaller to Berlin or something like that, Donc it's...
Yes, and it's true that it's now.
That's one of the advantages of Paris. You can walk from one gallery to another. In Berlin, my God.
Even in London, yeah.
Oh,
yes.
London is better to be for.
And the French situation for artist
studios
studios is also in Pantin, is also in Vitry, is also in Ivry.
Montreuil,
all of these places connect directly with the metro. So it's. But we are speaking about artists. But I'm also interested in the all these because we spoke of the point of the pyramids and all this network of. Artist-run spaces, of smaller gallery. I feel like also, Some people say that there is a problem of arrival of new generation of galleries in Paris. I don't think so. It seems that so many artists run space or younger galleries are flowering now.
It's very important because I lived in New York for 7 years, and I remember it was very important for me to go to like the house of now big curators who had like a Chinatown apartment, like a 5th walk-up floor, and you would go and discover amazing artists. And now this is happening in Paris as well. You have places like Profil, Goswell Road, Sentiment, Princess, Judith's Death, L'Agence de Voyage, a lot of really good essais. A lot of really good artists run space, and I think that makes a huge difference.
Tramps opened last month. Yes.
Slash gallery slash, yeah.
Opened
Same as
last
Good or
month by
Trash.
Peter Doig.
Yeah. And I think that makes the community also more soudé, not to speak French, more together. And it's a big change. I think artists are helping each other in Paris right now, and they're more inclusive as well. There are big changes, and yeah, they all do speak English now.
Nicolas Bourriaud recently wrote a column in Beaux-Arts magazine that was a kind of hooray for crisis, and he was just reminding that in the 90s, where art market also went through a very, very deep and problematic crisis, it was also the moment where galleries experienced new ways of collaboration. And Emmanuel, you were part of the adventure of Rue Louise Weiss in the 90s. It's also the moment when the devalorization of the object led to the birth of a new generation of artists.
Philippe Parreno, Pierre Huyghe.
Yes, but also Maurizio, etc. What do you think of this dimension?
You make Maurizio French now? I understand it.
No,
a big part of his career coming from France. Many of the key people was in France, but Maurizio is Italian.
The crisis in the 90s was not only the crisis in the 90s was not only in France.
Yes,
and Nicolas, of course, analyzed this thing on a more global point of view. But do you feel some kind of
the crisis in the 90s was another level of crisis. We have a cheap crisis now. At this time, what you were selling 100, you was not able to sell it at 10. Donc we speak about a big crisis now because we are so many galleries. The ecosystem is very big, and for sure we have a lot of bad habit to spend a lot. We organize parties, we publish books. We do so much more compared to the 90s. You know, I can make the list. It's impressive, the numbers of employees, the numbers of the rental fee, everything, because we have much bigger space. But in the 90s, it was from one day to another. You was not selling anything. And I opened at this time. I did not have the bad habit of that. Today, the market going down. It's very difficult for many people, for sure. It's not easy at all. But the very good news of this crisis is it show one of the caricatures was wrong. We was always speaking about how much a part of our clients was just there to speculate. And honestly, if from 2023 they were still buying to speculate, there was stupid speculators because it was clearly going down. And by the fact we're still selling quite well, makes the proof our clients have a real passion for that. And it's very important for me because we was destabilized by the speech of many people don't like contemporary art, was making our field just something for speculate or to laundry money. I was like, okay, come on, it's not my job, you know. But seriously, some people was talking to me, oh, my country is special for that, but like it was only the reason we was doing all this. And you're like, no, we have a real passion for that. So this crisis makes this, and it's important for me.
Julie, of course, you were much too young to know the crisis of the 90s. But what do you think of the actual situation and of the kind of capacity of resilience of the Paris situation in moments that could be more tough than by the past?
Alors, it's a good question. I was just thinking it has actually nothing to do with it, but a little bit, that the big crisis in Paris is the nightlife. And we didn't speak about it yet. No?
Finally, you mentioned it.
No, but I think it's important because we are in full, I come from a nightlife inheritance.
I have a good news.
Wait, tell me. You're opening a club.
No, Lionel Ben Simmons, the founder of Le Baron,
Yeah, our dear
the best
mentor.
club of
He's
our
a
generation, reopen le Bus Palladium.
Ah my God! So
Yes,
I
it's
think
coming.
we're
It's
very
coming.
positive.
I
now in
think we
Paris.
We was trying
collectively-
to do a party there, but it's there not really.
I think we collectively finally found the answer to the question, why Paris now?
Exactly.
You just found the answer.
Le Bus Palladium.
So why Paris now, the Bus Palladium. It was 45 minutes, was absolutely and terribly short, and I see Colin coming now. So I would like to thank you all and apologize for having been obliged maybe to make you short sometimes. I'm sorry for that, and it was a great pleasure to be with you tonight.
Merci Martin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Mina. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Emmanuel. A big round of applause. You were just getting started, really. We could have left you go on. It was fascinating, and obviously the beginning of more conversations to come. So thank you again, and thank you all of you for being here. It's extraordinary to see so many of you coming. We're very grateful for your presence. And come back again, since that's 5:30. We're going to move topic completely and look at the shared language of sport and art with an Olympic sports person, Fabien Allègre from the PSG. So really looking at how culture and performance can come together in a different way. So thank you again, and see you later. Merci.